All right. Hello. Welcome, YouTube people. We're doing some repotting today. I'm going to do at least one, this oncidium, and I might also do my dendrobium, which has a keiki that needs a little pot. So, and I need to repot and divide my aloe vera. So we'll see how much I'm feeling up to today. I start with the oncidium. And by the way, if you're wondering why the leaves are crinkly like this, that's actually due to inconsistent watering. I'm letting it dry out in between waterings, which Phalaenopsis like. Oncidiums don't care when they're flowering, but they dislike it when they're growing new bulbs. And you can see I'm not underwatering it. The bulbs aren't wrinkled. It has enough water overall, but it just likes a consistent dampness in order to fully inflate its leaves. And when it gets inconsistent watering during the growing season, it will prioritize storing in the bulbs and not inflate the leaves, and then they get all accordion-y. So that's on me. My life has been chaotic lately, and I have not been checking the orchids every day the way I used to. But I'm checking them enough to keep them all alive. So, you know, I've even been doing well enough with Thalia here that she's only slightly wrinkly now. If I can get another couple of weeks of consistent watering schedule on her, she might plump up entirely, which would be nice because, you know, she is effectively a mounted orchid now. She has no medium left anymore. I took it all out because her roots down in there had died off, possibly from being manhandled when I transferred her. Possibly there's something about the cholla they don't like, although the ones up top are growing in and around it without too much trouble, so I don't know. Anyways, but that's not what we're working on today. Today, we are working on thelxinoi here, and we'll go from there. And I have never repotted an oncidium before, so hopefully I can do this without making a hash of it. They have such tiny roots compared to Phalaenopsis. And I gave her a little soak. She's still, obviously, you can see in the store pot. Oh, wow, look at all those roots. I wonder if they're dead. If they were that brown on a fowl, I might think they're dead. They don't look, no, they don't feel dead. Anyways, there's her tag. Thelxinoi, bought from Jerry's. She is a Renee Komoda clone. And has lots and lots of very light, airy stuff, which is good for orchids. But all the moss is right at the top, where it's just going to dry out and drain out real fast. And that's like decorative moss even, not sphagnum. So I don't like that. We're going to give her some sphagnum. And I'm trying to be delicate with these teensy itty bitty little roots. It's probably going to take me a eternity to get her all the way freed from this, especially, oh yeah, since some of them are clinging to the bark. They don't cling to the perlite there. I like the big perlite chunks. I might try to wash those off and reuse them. Those are good. And the bark is fine. The moss up top is bad though, and I want her to have a little sphagnum so she doesn't accordion as much. So stay a little wetter. Only a little wetter, because we don't want her to get soggy. She doesn't want to be soggy, but she does want to stay consistently just barely damp. I have the opposite problem, by the way, with the dendrobium, if I get around to repotting that today. The dendrobium, it was potted originally in pure sphagnum. So, you know, talk about staying damp. That is just soggy. It is just always wet. And I don't know that it likes that, actually. I mean, they do it in the nursery because it makes it easier to be sure they, you know, don't dry out and stay alive. But nursery conditions are very different from home conditions, and what's convenient for the nursery isn't always the best care conditions for them. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to be like an hour picking little bits, and I don't have any great anecdotes to share with you in mind while I do that. I have a cold also. My voice is I'm more manly than ever because I've got the sick bass going. Sick bass. That's normally a music thing. Let's see. Boy, the ADHD is getting me here too. My brain's just all over the place today. I don't have anything I came prepped to talk to you guys about. So we might end up letting you skip ahead in a few more minutes. We'll see if I come up with something worth sharing. I want to share some sewing tutorials. You may have noticed I uploaded a needle felting. That was at the insistence of my child. I don't know what I'm doing with needle felting, really. I know even less about that than I know about orchids. But my little goober, for whatever reason, decided that I needed to make a second needle felted creature. She also is the one who made me make the first one. She's very spoiled on the crafts front. She gets things made for her all the time. Is that a snail egg? Yes, but it's a dead one. How weird. How do I have snail eggs when I've owned this for months? They must have just stayed in there and not hatched. Well, hey, cool. I'm glad I don't have snails. Oh, I got an ant. Yeah, we have odorous house ants in our house. They're very, very hard to get rid of. Where was I going? Needle felting, crafting. Oh, right. I want to do some more sewing tutorials, but I'm not sure, like, what people would like to see. You know, I did some ages ago with, like, the basic whip stitch that I use, and I made a little plushy heart that came out really cute. So it's like how to make a, you know, the simplest possible plush. And, wow, that is just full of dead snail eggs. Fascinating. Anyway, and I'd like to make more, but it's like, what can I film that's actually going to be interesting to people? Like, what do you want to see? You know, because really, the thing I'm best at in plush making is patterning. A lot of people use computer programs these days, or, you know, if you're doing it the old-fashioned way, you iterate a pattern a whole bunch of times to get it all right. And I do iterate, but I'm very good at getting the pattern all right on the first try. I have the 3D folding in the brain thing, where I can picture the 3D thing and unfold it into a 2D thing relatively accurately. It's not perfect. And I will do iterations. I've been doing these little anomalocaris plushes, and I just finished the third one. If you go over to my Blue Sky, I'm Sparkblade on Blue Sky. I'll try to remember to put a link in the video description so you can just click. But if I don't remember, you can look up Sparkblade. Easy to find. A lot of my account is 18 plus. But, you know, kiddies can pop over and look at the anomalocaris. I do tag everything, so the adult stuff will be hidden until you click. Anyways, but anomalocaris is one of my favorite creatures. They're extinct. They come from the Cambrian. They're part of the Cambrian explosion. I believe they were first discovered in the Burgess Shale up in Canada, where a lot of the early Cambrian fossils were first discovered. They are a distant ancestor of aquatic arthropods. But they're not an arthropod, because arthropod means jointed legs, jointed feet, and they do not have feet. They have side fins. They swam. And they probably ate trilobites, but their mouth parts weren't hard enough to bite through a trilobite shell, so what they probably did was they hunted for trilobites that were in the middle of shedding when they're most vulnerable. And they probably ate anything else they could get, you know, soft worms and little swimmy guys. I like to imagine them hunting picaya. Picaya is a protofish. It is one of the earliest chordates, things that had a notochord. It didn't quite have a true vertebra yet. It did not have bone, but it had a kind of cartilaginous little spine down its back with a nerve cord down the middle. And so that means it is ancestral to, or related to the thing that's ancestral to, all vertebrates, which means you and I. So, Anomalocaris, a distant ancestor of things like crabs and shrimps and so on, probably hunted and ate the ancestors of us. So if you were a little creature back in the Precambrian, you would not have feared lions and tigers and bears, oh my. You would have feared the Anomalocaris swimming up out of the deep to grab you, and it's grabby. It has little grabby claws, little jointed claws that curl up. When people first discovered them, they found the claws alone and thought that what the claw was a headless shrimp, because it is a tapered, jointed thing with little spikes along the sides that kind of resemble pairs of legs. They're pairs of spikes for grabbing food, actually, and so it could curl up the way shrimp curls its body. That's what Anomalocaris means. It means weird shrimp, anomalous shrimp. So, weird shrimp. And so the Anomalocaris took its jointed spines and grabbed things and stuffed them into its mouth. And they actually found a fossil of its mouth separately from the body before they ever found the whole thing, and thought the mouth might have been some kind of very odd jellyfish because it's circular and has a ring of ridges, like it can go in and out. So they thought it might have been a swimmy jellyfish bell, but in fact it goes in and out, of course, to eat things. Boy, you can tell I'm a nerd, huh? I'm sitting here repotting an orchid while telling you all about my favorite creature from the Cambrian. If you have a favorite creature from the Cambrian, you can feel free to let me know. Leave it in the comments. And I don't know, maybe I'll do a video featuring my Anomalocaris plushes. I've made 3 of them so far, and I'm probably going to keep one of them. I'm debating which one I keep. And I'm probably going to gift one to a friend of mine who's as into Anomalocaris as I am, which is a rare thing to find. And I'd like to sell one, but of course, Anomalocaris, being an arthropod creature, has a million tiny little jointed bits, right? So it has dozens and dozens and dozens of little fiddly pieces to sew, which means that even though the total plush is only about 10 inches long, which is, that's a pretty typical plush size. But I try to price my smaller plushes in the, 150 kind of range tops. And this one, if I was actually pricing it for my time, would be more like $250, $300. But, because I enjoy making them, I'm thinking I'm pricing these, the one I want to sell at $180. Just kind of splitting the difference between what I know people would rather pay, which is way less than that, and what I'd rather get, which is more. That is the hazard of being a creator, just trying to make a living from your art. Because mass-produced, creations, as you go down to Walmart, you buy a plush, what are you going to pay? I mean, you can get squishmallows for like $5-10, the little ones. And, I mean, even something like a Squishmallow, if I made it, I'd have to charge $40-50, And so it's just like, and the cheapest plush I make is little pear sprites, which is basically the same kind of deal as a Squishmallow. It's round. It's just a ball. And they're teeny. And I do those for $25. And then that's as low as I can go, And so people are used to paying the mass-produced prices. But, of course, for your time, really, if I was paying myself a truly living wage, like if I didn't have a partner to help me pay the bills who has a, quote-unquote real job, I would have to, I charge like twice what I'm charging now, and it would be hard for me to find customers, although not impossible. But I would probably do a lot more of the very same high-end demand things that almost nobody else is making. I can't describe those in detail on YouTube. But you know what I mean. You probably can guess what I mean. Anyways, that kind of thing pays pretty well, but I don't want to only do adult content. I want to do things that interest me. I want to do things that are fun. It's part of the reason of being self-employed is so I can enjoy my job, you know. So you're kind of caught in a dilemma because the things that pay best aren't always the things you want to do. And, you know, I'm very, very lucky to have a partner I can rely on to pay most of the bills. And I do chip in as much as I can. But honestly, a good bit of what I make is my own fun money for things like orchids, say. You know. But now we have had this ramble that's gone from the Cambrian to the economics of being self-employed. And I have gotten most of these bits out of this little guy. So I'm going to let you guys go. And you can join me again in a little while for me to try to get this guy into a new pot. So thanks, and I'll see you in just a second for you, but probably in another 15 minutes for me. Bye-bye. All right, and we're back. I haven't managed to perfectly get every speck of the old medium off, but I think I've done an all right job. So, this is another one of those ones that was not great, but it was decent quality plastic, so I cut some new side holes, because, you know, reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, just buy less crap in the first place, is the best of those, but reuse is the next best. And that includes, you know, repair and all those other things. Anyway. So the clay pellets there are to make sure there's spaces for the roots to get down into in the bottom while still being a little weighted, because I like to not have my pots so top heavy that I can't take the orchid out. And then I'm kind of just tucking sphagnum in here because, like I say, I want this to be able to stay a little more evenly moist, because obviously that's been a problem. That's why the leaves are crinkly, and sphagnum is very good at that. It wicks the water around. If you just dab water on only one end of sphagnum, eventually the other end will be wet too. And it holds and retains water very well. And it also doesn't rot very fast. It you know, stays good for, you know, a year or so, probably, before you really have to worry about it. So it's very good material for, so just chuck some in there. Yeah, we're going to put a little glob in the bottom here. I'm going to break that up. Then we're going to tuck these roots in. And yes, I'm putting it in a pot that's the same size as the one I got it out of. Actually, it's just slightly, it's taller, but it's not like massively bigger. And that is fine. This is an orchid. Orchids want to be root bound. In nature, their roots just hang out in the air. They're epiphytes, and they grab trees and they dangle and they go all over the place. And so it's not like a plant where the root wants to be in soil. And now we're going to put some of the black gold orchid mix with its little perlite and its big bark, which, as I've mentioned before, isn't my favorite, but it's what I've got right now. And it does fine. Good enough. The perlite does the same thing as the pellets. It gives space for the roots. And so does the bark somewhat. Just the perlite will transmit water. It lets water flow. Whereas the bark just sort of gets damp and stays damp. So, you know. And I mentioned I've never repotted an oncidium before. This is all new to me. I'm used to my Phalaenopsis. Oncidiums are definitely different with these teensy little roots. I've probably broken a bunch of them doing this. But, you know, oncidiums do grow more. That is one thing. They're not as fussy, I'm told. They're not as fussy as Cattleyas that get very upset if you disturb them at the wrong, you know, time of day or whatever. Well, time of year. But So there we are, all potted up. And I'm going to put it back in its decorative pot. Oh, actually, I've got too much. I got too much of the clay pellets in there. The clay pellets to weight down the decorative pots too, and also to lift the orchid to the correct height. But since this is in a taller pot now, it does not need them. So we'll fish those out mostly. And you don't need to watch me do this. So we're going to get this in the pot, and then I think I am going to do the dendrobium today. So come back in a couple seconds, and we'll start in on that by taking off its keiki, its little baby, and potting that in a tiny pot before repotting the main plant. All right, see you in a moment. And welcome back. I gave this guy a good soak, which you should always do before repotting, but the first thing I want to do is get this little keiki off. He flowered with 3 flower clusters, one of which, let's see, so one up here did nothing but be a normal flower, one of which has started a glorious root system as if it wants to be a keiki, but no leaves. And then the other, right here, let's see, where's the best angle to see this guy at? Right there, there. This one formed a full-on keiki, which is an entire baby orchid with its own root system, and its roots are good and established now. So we're going to pull this one off. And I have got my cinnamon. Powdered cinnamon is a good mild disinfectant for plants. It was a pigment powder, but now it's cinnamon in there. So first though, we got to get this guy off without damaging it, or, well, the cane it's on is really robust, so that's not a worry, but it's a little fragile. So we're going to just gently tug and twist. Just slowly work it. I'm being very fussy because it is a baby. And by the way, this used to have spider mites. I've treated it with an alcohol solution. Use about 30% alcohol, the same kind of thing you might use as a hand sanitizer, and spray it. And it doesn't make the leaves happy, but it makes the leaves happier than spider mites, and it will tend to kill the spider mites. There's also more traditional treatments, and neem oil, things like that. I don't have any, but I always have alcohol, so that's what I tend to use. Oh, hey, the roots have grown through the little twist tie holding this to the stake. That's part of why it's not coming off. Let's untwist. Let's see. This is so enthralling, I know, watching me wrestle with this little baby to try and detach it. So, come here. And that one is long. Oh, and I just cracked it. Oh, well, so much for not damaging it. We will try to not damage it more. Come on, you can come off. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Twist, twist, twist. Oh, almost. Oh, no, that's still stuck. Man, oh, there it goes. Gotcha! All right, now it has a wound where I pulled it off. So baby gets a dab of slightly glittery cinnamon. The glitter was mica powder, which is very non-toxic, so I didn't care. Yeah. It is body safe. Oh, hey, I have Mormon missionaries biking by outside my window. They might be dismayed if they end up stopping in here. I was Mormon when I was younger. I was a missionary myself. It was quite an interesting experience. Now, I don't necessarily recommend it, but when you're very sheltered, your first time out seeing the world can be quite eye-opening, even if it is in a wackadoo religious context. And I'm not saying all Mormons are wackadoos, but the religion is pretty weird sometimes, and certainly some of them are. I'd like to think I wasn't too bad, but I don't know. Anyway, that all aside, now we have a baby, and we have a small orchid pot. So, same treatment as I always give them. A little bit of A little bit of fun pellets in the bottom. Give it a little heft while still keeping the space open. And a little bit of sphagnum. And I don't know what I want to do about that super long root. I mean, I guess I kind of... Where's the spot where I already bent it? I can't even figure out where that was. You just stick yourself back together? Oh, no, it's right there. Can I should probably soak this guy so that these roots are softened. You can tell I am extremely capable and with it, and I do things right all the time, right? Right. Of course. All right. Okay. It's like, did I break another root? No. Those were two separate roots that just pulled apart from each other. All right. So, he's off to one side. I can't get him centered because the roots are just not cooperating. So, more of our black gold mix. I'm not advertising for them. Like I say, they're not my favorite, but it'll do. It's what they had at Jerry's, which is the local home improvement store that I prefer to go to, which, by the way, has really good orchids. It's where I bought Thelxanoi, the oncidium, and they have very nice dendrobiums there sometimes too. I haven't gotten any yet. And they also always have some nice phalaenopsis, but you know, I have plenty of phalaenopsis at this point. I have so many. I don't really need more. So, all right. I'm just going to tuck a couple more pellets down in. See if I can get them to roll down because they are round. Fill up some of that space. Alrighty. And a little more dirt. Not dirt, bark. You can actually put some orchids in dirt. The vanilla, they say, can go in dirt. But I haven't. All right, so let's get just a couple more pieces tucked in around here. All right, there's our baby planted. That's looking pretty good. So the next thing I want to do is get our papa plant here. Oh, and baby in its little pot. Now we want to get our papa plant here out. All right, I'm gonna go get. I'm gonna take a pause here, take a break for myself. I'll be back. We'll see you in a minute. Okay, I am back, and the first thing I'm gonna do is get these sticks out of here. Honestly, a lot of the time these guys are sort of optional. They probably help a bit with the potential rough handling, shipping the guys and stuff like that. But I mean, in nature, orchids do not get staked down. They just grow however. And can often, although admittedly, I suppose in nature, they often sort of droop over and go every which way and lean against trees and things. So yeah, you know, stakes can be helpful. But while repotting, we're going to get them out of the way. And I'll see how I feel about putting them back when we're done. So off it goes. One. Off it goes 2. And off it goes 3. And there we go. And I didn't even notice when I was picking this guy out of the store. I was looking at the flowers. Gorgeous, you know, a lot of blooms. But yeah, something terrible happened to its first canes. It came with the 2 latest ones blooming. I do wonder if I'm ever going to get another keiki out of this thing. Might. Could. Anyway, and of course, I am only a half-assed orchid owner, and especially with things that are not phalaenopsis. So for me, it's only grown this little guy, which means I don't know if and when I'll get any blooms. I was really surprised at the rebloom, but it did only rebloom 3 flower clusters. So, like, that's not, you know, that's nothing to write home about. All right, are you going to come out of there? Oh, you can see how much I paid for it. Got it at Lowe's. Lowe's does sometimes have very good orchid selection. It can be hit or miss. Sometimes they got, like, crap all. I don't know why I'm avoiding swearing. It's not like I monetize these videos, so it's not like I need to care if YouTube just demonetizes me. I'm not monetized in the first place. So, they sometimes have shit all. Fuck all, even. Oh. That was an interesting transition from my Mormon self, who, of course, never swore. I went through a phase, because since I never swore, I had never learned to not swear, if that makes sense. I'd never learned to code switch, to self-censor as necessary. So once I started swearing, I just swore, like everywhere, in all contexts, like a sailor. It was a bit awkward for a while. My goober child first said fuck at the age of, like, 2. Which is cute, but oh, I broke that. Gosh, dang it. Oh, see, and there, now my brain is like, no, we're talking to strangers, so you should censor yourself. Because I have learned since to properly code switch. Gosh, my still very Mormon dad comes to visit, and I've managed to get through all of his recent visits without swearing once. Oh, man. Let me tell you, being queerer than snake shoes, coming from a small town Mormon family is boy, that's, yeah. I'm still unpacking, and I'm nearly 50. I did everything in my life kind of late, because growing up sheltered. So, and that includes figuring out how very gay and non-binary and etc. I was. Kind of trans umbrella here. I sometimes say I'm a trans man to simplify things. Because the definitely not a cis woman part of that is the part that people probably should know. But it's not exactly man. I mean, for one thing, here, can I get this in the camera? Look, there's boobs. I have not had top surgery or gone on T. I don't really intend to. So I'm more of a masculine, non-binary, bisexual, butch, I don't know. It's really hard to put a pin in it. Not a woman, not straight. Pronouns, yes. I get a certain amount of euphoria out of he and him, because nobody ever says that to me in person, because I look very... I mean, I look like somebody's mother, honestly. I am. Except for, well, somebody's mother here in Oregon, where you know, a blue faux hawk is something somebody's mother might have. It's actually quite fun at the school pickup, because, you know, half the people there look like, you know, typical soccer moms, and the other half are very Oregonian weirdo parents, hippie weirdo parents. It's quite fun. But anyway, I'm queer. Queer works. I know that the kids these days sometimes say, but that's a slur, and I'm going, is there a word for the, you know, LGBTQ plus umbrella group that isn't a slur? Because I'm pretty sure everything we've ever been called by anybody has been used as a slur at some point. I mean, gay. That's so gay! You know, a lesbian. I guess lesbian, I haven't heard it as a slur as much. The slur word is there's another one for that. But then again, I know I have certainly heard it said in tones of disdain. So you just can't escape that if you're queer. It's always going to be a slur. So use the terms you like. I like queer because you can't pin it down. Like, you think about that. You think about, if I have to identify exactly what I am in order to have a term for myself, and you're kind of outing yourself to everybody always about everything. And maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't feel up to that discussion, or maybe you don't want the turfs to I don't know, target you, or maybe you just don't feel like it's anybody else's business. And queer is very good for that. Because queer is just, if you're not cis-het normative, yada, yada, yada. I mean, my partner is certainly identifies as cis and identifies as straight, actually. But he is also, in a certain sense, queer, because he is in a non-normative partnership with me. My lack of need to get the surgery and the T is part of why that works. But his open-mindedness and flexibility is also part of why that works. And in a certain sense, that does make him queer, even if he's also straight. And isn't that interesting? Queer is very inclusive. And of course, if you don't like the word, you don't have to use it for yourself. I'm not in the business of telling people what labels they ought to use. I believe in the right to self-identify fully, completely. You can identify as anything you want. Yes, even an attack helicopter. Lol. Although I'm going to look at you funny, maybe a little bit, if you say you do. But I've spent some time around very weird people, and I've spent some time around furries. But I repeat myself. I'm furry-ish, furry light, furry enough, furry adjacent. But, my early internet experiences my first internet experience was in GeoCities back in the day. GeoCities HTML chats. Man, if you remember those, hi, you're old, huh? Feels weird to be this old. But anyway, GeoCities HTML chats were a wild and delightful place. But my second home on the internet was in otherkin, dragon otherkin, IRC chats. Not because I am otherkin, but because I just adore dragons. And I found every dragon thing on the early internet. Every single result for a Yahoo search for dragons I had visited at one point in time when that was a thing you could do. I was in dragon web rings, I was in dragon art groups, I did everything dragon-y I could. I was very obsessed. Fixations, And so that led me to a dragon otherkin group, and I liked it there. I was just kind of role-playing as a dragon, and they were okay with that, The role players were allowed, but it was interesting. That was one of the things that opened my mind. I mentioned being a missionary opening my mind. Meeting otherkin opened my mind, going, these people are weird, and they believe something I think is impossible, but they're so happy, And one of those folks is still one of my best friends today. Hi to a certain blue dragon. And, it's just always made him happy. He has never seen... You hear a lot of people talking about, they believe they're edibles, and it's like it's disordered, and like it's bad, and like you must just be miserable. But I mean, come on. Right now, you here listening to this, think about if I say, would you like to leave the human race? Or are you content to be part of the human race as it is now? Can you see the appeal? And can you see maybe, if you can be queer, if you can be anything you want to be, why not be a dragon? Sure. I know some trans people in particular feel a little threatened by otherkin. You know, there was that whole business with Republicans talking about kids using litter boxes in schools and stuff like that. And I'm just going, and you know, some trans people were like, oh, you know, the furries are making us look bad. The trans species people are ruining it for us real trans people. And I'm going, no, the Republicans are. If it wasn't that, it would have been something else. This is the thing about it. If they hadn't found that, well, there were other things. There's always something else. There's always something, you know, there's always an accusation. There's always a judgment. There's always something to use to say that you're a freak and a weirdo if you aren't a wealthy, cishet, white man. There will always be something they can say about you. So, why do we have to throw the other weirdos under the bus just because of the Republicans? What do you think about that? The people who hate us are our reason for hating furries? It's illogical, ridiculous, nonsense. So, no. I wouldn't say I believe in being trans species, but I do believe that some people are happier identifying as non-human, and I think that's the only thing that matters. You know, I met Stalking Cat once. Do you know who Stalking Cat is? A Stalking Cat is a guy who had tattoos and surgeries and considerable alteration to become a tiger. I met him at Further Confusion back in 2005 or 2006. Met at a room party. I didn't really have a chat or anything. It was just I was watching him eat grapes with feline dentition because he had dental work done to give him cat teeth. If you've ever seen a cat try to eat grapes, or maybe a dog, although grapes are bad for dogs, they are not designed for it, and they will go at it with such enthusiasm anyway, and it is hilarious. And seeing a human being do the same experience was quite interesting. And he was happy, you know. He went to great expense and a lot of pain and a lot of time and effort to look like a tiger, and he seemed to be doing great, even if he looked strange eating grapes. You know, he was a happy guy, or at least he seemed to be. I mean, they say I didn't know him deeply, but yeah. We should prioritize happiness and orchids. I'm almost done with this guy, so I am going to let you go while I fuss out the last tiny little bits. And I've mauled the heck out of this. I'm hoping it'll be all right though, because it's still got a pretty fair number of roots, and I believe dendrobiums can grow roots at all seasons too, so it should be able to recover pretty quick. And, but yeah, we'll get back to you when I'm done with this, and we'll park him in a pot, and then maybe we'll see about dividing an aloe vera. This will be a really long video. I don't know. I've never done really long videos, but I watch a lot of very long form content. I like Dapper Dinosaur and Guts Gibbon and a lot of the other debunking community and science education community, and some of them do extremely long form content. I've 3 or 4 hour long videos, and they seem to do well. I realize I'm not as fascinating here as listening to Guts Gibbon talk about hominin fossils. Oh, if you can hear that, that's a cat. So I definitely got to stop here now. But anyways, we'll see if this does well as a longer video, if people like it. I'm not trying to become YouTube famous, but I would like people to see the things I do, or I wouldn't share them. So thank you for watching. I'll be back with more in just a moment. All right, well, that was a total mess. This has obviously been repotted, or potted up, which is where you just take the whole thing and you just plunk it in a bigger pot and you stuff in around it twice, because it still had the nursery plug in the middle, on one sphagnum ball and a second sphagnum ball, which you could probably kind of see on the part you saw me unwrapping. And I just, oi, I have mauled this poor thing, but I'm sure it will recover eventually. And now it's time for a fresh pot with the pellets. I'm going to put more sphagnum in this than I have on some of the other ones because it seems to be doing all right with that. But I do also want a little orchid bark, break it up, let the roots get in there some. They didn't seem to have gotten much into that second pot up. There weren't very many roots in that outer layer, so we don't want to do packed sphagnum because I don't think it likes it. So, but we'll do some. Put some fresh in the bottom. Then we get our plant in and kind of tuck some of those roots down in there. All right, now I'm just going to try to hold this centered about where I want it. And dump in orchid bark. All around. Oop, and that's going everywhere but where I want it. This is so messy. I'm going to wash the work table, wipe it down a little. Anyways, let's work that down some. Add some more sphagnum around the sides. Just let it have a little bit to make sure it can stay damp, but it needs more breathing room than it was getting. So we are also going to do, get down in there, we are also going to do a few more pellets. Just mix that in a bit. Get those down in among the roots, kind of shake it. Let gravity pull those puppies down. Yeah. And a little more sphagnum, and then a little more bark on the top. Kind of, I don't know, I've made a parfait here, I guess. Orchid parfait. Not very edible. Well, that is a big awkward bark chunk. I don't like that. Yeah, we'll just poke it down the side. Whatever. All right, see if we can get that to settle. Oh, this does want at least one stabilizing stake in here. So let's stab one down in and all the way to the bottom. Oh, I've mauled more root, haven't I? Oh dear. And let's see, where did I put those twist ties? Ah, there's one. We'll just twist tie both these guys to this with a little loose. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing. God, I need to watch the screen. Whoop. Yeah. We just put a stake in, twist ties, yada yada yada. Now the bark will come out if I turn it side. Obviously I need a different filming setup to do this. I like the filming my hands, what they're doing thing, but I don't know. Okay, that feels pretty stable. Look at how tall that boy is. All right. Get the rest of this nonsense on top. Do we want any more bark? I think we're good. All right, I'm gonna put that in its pot. There we go. And I'm just pop this off so you can see what we've got here. So there. It's in a smaller pot. I potted it down, but you could see when I was peeling it out there, it did not need all that room. So oh, there's a fun thing in the background. Maybe I'll film a little bit about that. I don't know. Let me know if you want to see what the heck is that with the eyes back there. I might film a little on making that. Now, thank you for joining me for the orchids. My Apollon dendrobium and his little baby and my oncidium all happily repotted. And I'm sure I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. All right, hello. I said goodbye a moment ago for you, and yesterday for me, thinking I was done, and then I remembered I'd said I'd do my aloe vera. I realize I could just have not, but it needs repotting, so this is a good excuse to do it. And I'm going to be potting it up into the pot my dendrobium was in, but also I'm going to be separating out one of the babies so that I can give it away, because I have a friend who might like an aloe vera. So I've also moved my camera up a little. It's a little wider field of view, and it's only barely above the tops of this guy. This guy's still big, but we'll see what we can do. This might get messy, because he is not in sphagnum and bark chips. He is planted in gravel, basically. Gravel and sand, that's cactus mix. But he's also very big for his pot and probably quite root bound. So I'm going to see if I can get him out. I watered him, was that yesterday? That was the day before. So should still be damp in there. He's a little underwatered. You can tell by how dried out the tips are. But I always prefer to err on the side of underwatering. I have killed so many succulents by overwatering. So, you know. So let's see if we can wrestle him out of this pot without making a giant mess. It will probably make a giant mess. Here goes. Wiggly, wiggly. Up, 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 up. It's a very pretty pot. Oh yeah, that is so root bound. Say in an orchid that would be fine, but that is much too packed in there for an aloe. Alright, so I'm just going to pot up. I'm not going to get all the old medium off. There's almost no organic stuff in here that's not the roots. So if I was just repotting this whole thing, that I would just pop it in there and surround it by more gravel and be done. However, I want to get a pup off. So we're going to have to try and tease one of these out. Oh, there's this tag in the way. Aries Paean. I love the Greek gods. If you've seen my other content, you may know I'm a Hellenic polytheist. So I do, in fact, consider Ares my patron deity. Not in a literal war kind of way. It's more of a metaphoric thing. So, and let's say, this is Aries Paean is the name of this aloe, and that is Ares the healer. And also named for the fact that Ares was a good father, because he's got such healthy little babies. And, oh, getting them off is going to be fun. I don't know. I've never separated an aloe that had the pups on like this before. I've separated ones where they pupped very, just kind of off a little side thing where the distinction between the parent and the child was both clear and the roots were not really started yet. I might actually have to just break one of these off and reroot it, because this is just one big old root ball. You poor boy. Definitely wait. Honestly, I could pot him up bigger than this, but I don't have a pot that's bigger than this. This is my biggest pot. So I'll probably have to repot him in a few more months. But I really would like to get one of these guys off with some intact roots. Oh right, Aries. And I was going to tell you guys about Ismenias, which is my little dragon planter with the little orchid. And I named the orchid Ismenias, but the Ismenias is the name of the dragon too, because that relates to Aries. There's a story in Greek myth about the founding of, I believe it's Thebes, where the, before there was a city, before there was anything there, there was a spring. So this is the sacred spring of Thebes, and it was guarded by a dragon. And the spring was called the Ismenian Spring, and the dragon was called the Ismenian Dragon. I'm not sure what Ismenian actually means, but the dragon was also a quote-unquote child of Ares, or had been set there by Ares. It does depend on which versions you're reading. So maybe Ares just hired the dragon, but I like the version where the dragon is a child of Ares. I mean, sure, God of War can have a son who's a dragon, right? It's spelled drakon with a K in Old Greek, because a lot of our consonants have shifted since then. But anyways, the Ismenian dragon was guarding this spring, and was eventually attacked and defeated, which, stories about Ares himself end in defeat for him more often than in victory. Now, if you go to the Roman Mars, Mars won a lot, but Ares was not above losing. It's a bit the what they call the Worf effect. The strongest guy loses, just to show how dangerous the enemy is, kind of deal. But anyways, so Ares loses a lot, and the dragon lost too, and was slain. And that is how Theseus ended up with the dragon's teeth, which, of course, when they were sown in the ground like seeds, sprouted warriors who were incredibly difficult to fight and dangerous, and etc., so on and so forth. And these warriors, there's also several different versions of this part of the story. In one version, after sowing them, Theseus throws a stone or something in amongst them, and they fight each other until they're all dead. There's another version where those warriors were the first founders of Sparta, which is actually one of the few connections Ares has with Sparta. A lot of people think, oh, Sparta was warlike, Sparta was Ares. Sparta's main festival and main god was actually more Athena than Ares, although there are a couple of other connections with Ares and Sparta, but Ares was not specifically Sparta. If anything, he was more associated with the region of Thrace, which is way up north in Greece, not near Sparta at all. So anyways, so there's the story of the Ismenian dragon, and so that's why I call my dragon Ismenius. I like that story, and it's a good name for dragon, Greek dragon. But there's also a story behind that little dragon figure I have. About a year ago, a friend of mine linked me to a listing on, it was like Alibaba or somewhere like that, for this dragon planter. And it looked really cool and really interesting. And they were like, this is very up your alley. And I thought, it is. And, I knew it was a cheap knockoff of something, but I assumed it was a cheap knockoff of a better commercial product, that they were doing the thing where there was a factory run, and the factory, makes the knockoffs on the side, and yada, yada, yada. So I bought one. And, and I actually bought two. There's two versions of it. The other one that I got was so bad. And I still haven't finished it. But anyways, when it arrived, it was also pretty bad. The cast was terrible. The seam was obvious. There were gaps. It was just ugly as fuck. So I ended up having to partially resculpt it and completely repaint it. The paint job was just a joke. Yeah, okay, we're breaking some roots. Anyways, so what happened was I was in the process of working on it, and I bought the second one, which I say is a different, slightly different sculpt, and even worse quality, and I still haven't finished redoing that one because it needs so much work. I have to basically completely remake one of the hind feet. Anyways, about a week after that arrived, though, when I just started working on it, a friend sends me another link and is like, hey, this is a cool artist. They also make dragons. And I looked at this artist and I went, that style looks really familiar. That style looks a lot like the really nice photo of that dragon planter. And I went to that guy's website, and yeah, there was the planter for sale. About $300, which I couldn't have afforded to just buy, so I just wouldn't have had the planter. But yeah, they were each individually handmade. They were resin casts, but like individually hand cast, just doing one at a time. Gorgeous paint job, just beautiful works of art, and out of my price range, as I say, but I felt very, very bad because I had not been ripping off some commercial run of a whole batch of dragons. It was ripping off an individual artist, a person who works, the way I work. I would like to get into resin one of these days. I've noodled with it a little, but I don't have anything that's really sellable quality yet. Anyway, so I did. As I say, I couldn't afford to just buy dragon planters, but I bought some other stuff from the guy. I bought some really cute pins, and I will link his shop down below if I remember to. I will like remind me if you don't see the link, and I will add it. But anyway, really cool artist, seems like a really great person, and I do feel bad for contributing to the knockoffs ripping him off, because it's one thing to rip off, you know, a big factory batch of something. It's another thing to rip off an individual. That's just not kosher. So, so yeah. Oh, okay. Well, it's got some roots on it. That was trauma. We may have to put a little rooting hormone on this guy and put him in some water before I put him in a pot. But we got a baby off. So I'll take care of a baby. And now I'm just going to pot up Dad here. And since most of this is inorganic, well, some of this is peat. A little of this is peat, but a lot of it is perlite and gravel, and the mix I'm going to add in to fill this up is even more perlite and gravel. So we're just going to reuse this because it's pretty reusable, and especially as it's only been a few months. It hasn't been years in there. I just put it in a pretty small pot. I did pot it up when I got it. When I got Aries here, I potted him up because he came in a hilariously tiny pot. Like, I think it was, imagine, I don't know, about 2/3 of this size, but in a pot like that. Lol. So, but now he needs potting up again. So we've got some of the old medium in there. Now we're gonna put in some fresh. I'm using Jack's Gritty Mix. Just somebody recommended it to me for the lithops, and I like it. It seems to work pretty well. So we're gonna put a little in because this is a deeper pot. And let's see. Yeah, that sits about where I want it. And a little more to this side since it's missing a pop on that side. And then we'll just pour in around the base. And kind of distribute that around. And obviously you can make your own mix. This is mostly just small gravel. That's all, just mostly small gravel. I believe it has a little bit of finer sand, and it also has a little bit of a fine bark in there. No perlite, interestingly. A lot of these draining mixes go for perlite, but perlite is artificial. People potted things before perlite existed. I mean, it's made from natural materials, so it's not like a plastic, but it is a made thing. They don't just mine it out the way it is. It is. If you want that, you go for pumice. But anyways, I put this gritty mix in. I might top it with a little bit of decorative gravel, but I'm not sure. You can't really see down in here on this because the plant grows all up around it, so I might just leave it. I think I'm just going to leave it with the gritty mix and not do the decorative gravel because like I said, you can't really see it. All right, get that in there. There, and now it's got a little room to grow. I really do need to get, next time I repot it, I need to repot it into something giant. And aloe vera, aloes can get absolutely monstrous because they'll just keep pupping and keep growing, and so this is nowhere near as big as they can get. But let's grab my phone out of this holder and have a good look at how he looks there. That is a real, I love that pot. I like getting interesting pots. So yeah, looking good. And the little baby, I was going to pot up the baby completely, but I think actually, given how much I damaged the roots, I'm going to put a little rooting hormone on it and give it a week or so in water just to grow some new ones before I pop it into the sand. But yeah. Now I'm all done with the repotting. I mean, in a couple of weeks, I got some more things that probably will need it, but for now, everybody has a nice new home. All my orchids, all my drought-loving plants. Everybody's doing good. Liette is visiting the other lithops because the grow light in my kids' room is not working. Anyway, so I appreciate you coming with me for this long, ridiculous ramble. And hope you enjoy it. And I'm sure I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.